So after Joe Biden did very well on Super Tuesday and Mini Super Tuesday, he did particularly well with older voters, specifically over the age of 65. And while a lot of people in the media and the mainstream are basking in their glory and victory about how well they did and how they think that Bernie Sanders is done for now, there are a few pundits who are switched on and coming to terms with the fact that a lot of younger voters chose to go with Bernie Sanders. Matter of fact, the overwhelming majority, something around 80+% of voters between the ages of 18 and 29 go with Bernie Sanders. And this is a pattern that we've seen in almost every single state so far in this primary. And so they're wondering now what is going to happen if Joe Biden is actually the nominee. What's going to happen in November against Donald Trump? Will these younger voters actually show up? Now, before I get into this, I think a lot of you already know the answer to that question. It's a resounding no. Now, I'm going to show you a clip from Van Jones on CNN, which perfectly encapsulates what I've said and shows you that some people are concerned about what's going to happen if Joe Biden actually succeeds in clinching the nomination.
I think this is a very dangerous moment for the Democratic Party. You have now an insurgency that's about to be defeated. What do you do with the people that you defeat? There was a hope on the part of a lot of young people they had a champion. You got young people who are graduating with $250,000 in debt. You got young people with a lot of pain, and they had a champion. Mm-hmm. And that they thought that they were going to be able to surround a divided establishment with their movement, crush that divided establishment, and move forward. Instead, the establishment united and stopped them. Now what do? Last time Bernie Sanders got beaten, there was an assumption that all these people were just going to fall in line and vote against Trump, and there was not enough care for the concern and the pain of his base. I think tonight there's going to be a lot of crowing, a lot of relief on the part of the establishment, but temper it, and turn to those people and say, we want to be your champion. Yeah. If you don't do that, you're going to have a Pyrrhic victory.
There were a lot of Sanders supporters in key states who did not end up voting for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. That's exactly my point.
Right. I agree. Biden should pivot to the general and reach out to young people in particular who supported Bernie and let them know, I'm going to be your candidate. And that he understands the fact that we have left the next generation a real house of cards.
Notice the shift in rhetoric. As they're thinking that it might be Joe Biden that gets the nomination, all of a sudden, it's not, the toxic Bernie bros, the mean online supporters. No. Now it's, we have to come together. We have to appease them. We have to preach unity just to get you on their side. But as soon as they would hypothetically get Joe Biden elected, it's going to pivot back to the right-wing policies. So Anderson Cooper quickly chiming in there to say that there are a lot of Bernie voters who did not end up voting for Hillary Clinton in the general against Trump. This is a talking point that we've seen repeated a lot of times, that, Hillary Clinton lost the election because the Bernie bros are sexist and they didn't turn out. No, this is nonsense. Okay. As you all know, there are more Bernie Sanders supporters that went and voted for Hillary Clinton and swallowed their pride than her supporters did for Obama in 2008 when she bitterly lost the nomination. It was very, very close between her and Obama, right? So that's one thing that Anderson Cooper conveniently leaves out. But at the same time, he's right. A lot of people were disgusted by the way that she cheated Bernie Sanders out of the nomination. You all know what happened, the rigging that went on with the DNC. Now, what Andrew Yang says here is that Joe Biden should maybe pivot in the general and try to appeal to younger voters. Honestly, man, I think the Democratic Party is too far gone for that, okay? No one is going to believe Joe Biden, no matter what he says. Even if he says that, I support Medicare for all, do you really believe that Joe Biden is going to implement Medicare for all? Of course not. This guy has openly expressed his disdain for every single voter that he comes across, whether we're talking about a veteran, whether we're talking about an auto plant worker, journalists, but especially millennials. Take a look.
The younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. No. I have no empathy for it. Give me a break. Because here's the deal, guys. We decided we were going to change the world, and we did. We did. We finished the civil rights movement to the first stage. The women's movement came to being. So my message is, get involved.
So you heard what he said. You heard what Joe Biden said. I have no empathy for this generation. His words. You really think younger voters are going to turn out for this guy? Not only does he have no policies that appeal to younger voters, but he's openly telling them, go vote for Trump. I have no empathy for you. I don't care. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to wag my finger in your face. I don't think that's someone you can reason with. I think that even if you try to pivot in general, it's not going to work. This is not someone that you can trust. The Democratic establishment is something that people are sick of. And many, many younger voters, my age, millennials, have expressed that they are not going to vote for Joe Biden no matter what. You have seen that from Kyle Kalinske. You've seen that from Mike Figueredo. I've seen that from you guys in the chat. You remember when we were doing the live chat, I asked a bunch of you, would you vote for Joe Biden even if he won the nomination fair and square? And a lot of you said no. And the reason is very clear. It's because this guy stands for nothing. He's not going to give you free college. He's not going to give you universal health care. He's not going to give you a living wage. He is the same old milquetoast neoliberal nonsense that got Donald Trump elected in the first place. And this whole party allegiance 1984 style nonsense that they keep trying to hammer down people's throats that, oh, you have to fall in line and you better come out, you better turn out and support Joe Biden is not going to work. People did that in 2016. They fell in line. And what did that get them? Trump won anyway. And then the next candidate that they're proposing is just like Hillary, except worse. At least Hillary was somewhat charismatic and way more popular than Joe Biden, and she could string together a coherent sentence, and even she fell through and she didn't manage to win against Donald Trump. So how on earth are you expecting youth to turn out for someone who openly expresses disdain for them and thinks that everything they want is a joke, is a pipe dream, is pie in the sky, as he calls it? No, that's not happening, okay? And I think the Democratic Party is too far gone at this point. There are so many people, every single person I talk to is not going to vote for Joe Biden. It's just not happening. And I think the Democratic establishment is in for a big shock come November if this monstrosity gets the nomination. Because not only is he going to lose, but he's going to lose terribly. And the youth will not be there. Moderates can't turn out the youth vote. It just doesn't happen. Look at Obama. He pretended to be a progressive, and he got one of the highest youth turnouts in history in any election. How did he do that? By exciting the base. Joe Biden does not excite the base. Joe Biden only excites people over the age of 65. Even though they might have turned out in large numbers now in the primary, it's not going to suffice come November in a general matchup against Donald Trump. It's not happening. When we're talking younger voters, we're not talking just people between the ages of 18 to 29. Everyone up until the age in their 40s, they support Bernie Sanders. And it's not just them who are going to feel disenfranchised. A lot of people are sick of the Democratic establishment. They switched from Democratic to Trump in 2016, and they'll probably stay Trump in 2020 because you're giving them the same old, same old. Now, in the end, do you really think that the Democratic establishment cares? Of course not. Let's be real here. Let's be real. There is no two-party system. This is a one-party system that serves oligarchs. Okay, the sole job of the political establishment is to serve corporations. Why? Because they are owned by corporations. The lobbyists, the politicians, write laws in favor of these multinational corporations. They don't care who is in office as long as the power structures remain intact. Donald Trump is not going to change the power dynamic and the structure of the American government. Bernie Sanders might. So as long as Bernie Sanders doesn't get into power, everything is fine and dandy. Matter of fact, they prefer Trump to Joe Biden. Why? Because look at the massive tax cuts that he gave them. Look at the massive military budget that he awarded the military-industrial complex. Donald Trump is great for business. They don't mind Trump. With Trump in office, they get to keep fundraising off of him. They get to keep whining about how bad he is, sitting on their behinds, doing absolutely nothing to advance healthcare or wages or worker protections or bettering people's lives. They'll just keep complaining that Donald Trump is blocking everything and he's the root of all evil, and therefore they cannot do anything. This is a very convenient arrangement for the Democratic establishment. His Twitter rants make no difference, but Bernie Sanders might. The entire goal of this primary, the entire goal of this election, just like the last one, is to stop Bernie Sanders. They know Joe Biden is going to lose, and they don't care. They frankly do not care. That's not the issue here. You are missing the issue if you think that this is all about partisan politics and, oh my God, Joe Biden is going to lose against the orange clown and it's all because of the younger version. That's not the big picture here. At the end of the day, all that matters to the 1% is that the power dynamic stays the same. That's it. They just want to keep making money. They don't want their interests to be messed with. Bernie Sanders would mess with their interests. Joe Biden would not, and Donald Trump most definitely would not. So whether it's Biden or Trump makes no difference. So don't fall into this trap of thinking you have some obligation towards the Democratic Party and, if you don't turn out in November to vote for this melting brains Joe Biden, that everything is your fault. No. Joe Biden would be the same as Donald Trump, a few less rants on Twitter. Although, honestly, is that very much different when he's going around yelling in people's faces directly? I mean, you're trading Twitter rants for literal rants, going around and telling people he doesn't care and to vote for Trump. Well, you're going to get your wish, man. Because not only will a lot of youth not turn out, but a lot of people are going to heed your advice and go and actually vote for Trump. I've seen that many times in many comment sections. A lot of people have said that if Bernie doesn't get the nomination, they're going to go and vote Trump just to spite the DNC. That's not the majority of people, but a few have said that, which indicates how bad you are screwing the working class. And when you are turning up and yelling in people's faces and you are telling them, go and vote for the other guy, well, that's on you then. So as I said, the youth turnout, that's definitely not happening if Joe Biden clenches a nomination. You might win the primary, good for you, but you are losing the general because you cannot win without exciting the base. And Joe Biden excites absolutely nothing. He will be wiped out by Donald Trump, and the power structure, the power dynamic will remain intact for the 1%.